Ladies and gentlemen, please join Professor Nora Duncan of the Wayne State University Music Department for our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Professor Duncan. You may be seated. Good afternoon. I can't hear you. Good afternoon. My name is Bob Ackerman. I'm Dean of Wayne State University Law School, and I am pleased to welcome you to the groundbreaking for the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights. I would like to extend a special welcome to the family and friends of the Honorable Damon J. Keith, to the members of the federal judiciary, to Chief Justice Marilyn Kelly and other members of the Michigan judiciary, to the law clerks, present, former, and future of the Honorable Damon J. Keith, to the Honorable Harold Coe, legal advisor to the Department of State and our commencement speaker this evening, to at least two members of Congress, the Honorable John Conyers and the Honorable Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, to other officials of the United States, the state of Michigan, and many local governments, to officials of the State Bar of Michigan, members of the Wayne State University Board of Governors, Wayne State University President's Cabinet members and deans, members of the Wayne Law Board of Visitors and Law Alumni Association Board, Wayne Law students, faculty, employees, and alumni, and the many supporters of Wayne State University, its law school, and the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights. Thank you all for attending. Today is an auspicious occasion. It is no accident that today, May 17th, was chosen for this event, for it is the anniversary of the decision in Brown v. Board of Education. Today is a day of celebration. We celebrate the life and work of a member of the greatest generation, a giant of the judiciary and an icon of the civil rights movement, the Honorable Damon J. Keith. We celebrate the spirit of philanthropy that is alive and well in Detroit and Michigan. We celebrate the construction of a center that will enshrine the work of Judge Keith and carry that work forward through courses, conferences, symposia, exhibits, publications, and clinical work in civil rights. And we celebrate the rebirth of a great American city that is proud to call Judge Keith one of its own. The Keith Center for Civil Rights is more than a building, it is a program. And we haven't waited for the building to get it started. In the past year alone, we have appointed Professor Peter Hammer as director and Professor Jocelyn Benson as associate director of the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights. We have greeted visiting Keith Professor John A. Powell, who delivered a lecture on negotiating the new political and racial environment and taught a seminar for us. Together with the Michigan Roundtable, we produced a program, the Conference on Racial Inequities in Housing Policies. We entertained an exhibit, Jacob Lawrence and the Legend of John Brown. We had E. Ethelbert Miller, a remarkable poet, for a series of readings here. Together with the Journal of Law in Society, the Keith Center produced a symposium titled Rebuilding the Post-Industrial City. And we invited Michelle Romnick, who lectured on black classicists, black lawyers, and some Detroit connections. Just a few of the many things that we've been doing with the Keith Center and a prelude of things to come. I am happy to introduce an alumnus of Wayne Law, a longtime Wayne State University advocate and supporter, Governor Eugene Dreicher, chair of the Wayne State University Foundation and a member of our Board of Governors.
Wayne State University is one of 3 constitutional universities in the state of Michigan. It is under the control of a statewide elected Board of Governors of 8 members. I am delighted to represent the Board of Governors here today and also the Board of Directors of the Wayne State Foundation. Let me begin by introducing 5 of my colleagues from the board who are here. Vice Chair Tina Abbott, board members Debbie Dingle, Paul Masseron, Annetta Miller, and Gary Pollard. Would you please stand to do it? May I also introduce 3 board members emeriti, Leon Atchison, Elizabeth Hardy, and Jacqueline Washington. Wayne State's campus is graced with dozens of buildings that bear the names or reflect the gifts of alumni and friends whose extraordinary generosity has been so pivotal in the development of this university. That generosity is evident again today from those whose contributions have made the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights a reality. We are particularly grateful to A. Alfred Taubman and Edsel B. Ford, great friends of Judge Keith and of Wayne State University, for their leadership gifts. The Keith Center will be a most worthy addition to this university's contribution to legal education, while simultaneously honoring a person who has given a lifetime of service to this community. For more than 6 decades, Damon J. Keith has been the exemplar of what Anthony Kronman, the former dean of the Yale Law School, called the lawyer statesman, a person who blends great legal skills with a broad knowledge of the political and social forces around him and an abiding belief in and commitment to public service. It's difficult to overstate the influence that Judge Keith has had on this city, state, and nation. Most obviously are his landmark judicial rulings, particularly in the field of civil rights, that have changed the way Americans live their lives. But since we are at the groundbreaking of an educational building in a university setting, I'd like to focus on the role that Judge Keith has had as an educator. I'm not speaking about teaching in a classroom. Rather, I'm talking about Judge Keith's remarkable life, during which he has taught by example, not by lecture. We all know of the legendary impact he's had on scores of young lawyers who've served as his clerks during the 43 years he's been on the trial and appellate benches. Being mentored by Damon Keith has been the pathway toward extraordinary accomplishment for dozens of his clerks who've scaled the heights in private practice, academic life, the judiciary, and political office. Many of those students are here today and know far better than I just what it meant to have had Damon Keith as one's teacher. But we should also look beyond those whom he has formally mentored in the intimate setting of his chambers and focus on what he's taught so many in this community by word and deed about what it means to be a public-spirited citizen. Being a federal judge, particularly on the Court of Appeals, is a distinct honor given only to a small group of people. But it has its downside. The job creates a certain separation and remoteness. Judges must, of course, remove themselves from the rough and tumble of partisan politics and activities that might call their impartiality into question. But they surely need not divorce themselves from public life or become so monastic in their behavior that they are oblivious to all that is happening in the world around them. Throughout his career, Damon Keith has been able to master both the art of judging and the art of being an engaged public citizen. While he's been justly recognized throughout the country for the work he has done wearing the judicial robes, I want to pay special honor to him for all that he has done as one of our most committed Detroiters. Whether in working on finding suitable living quarters for Rosa Parks or a sustainable financial base for the Charles Wright Museum. It would take us all day to describe Judge Keith's influence on people and institutions, as he's shown all of us time and again what it means to be dedicated to the public good. And that will doubtless be one of his most significant legacies. Recently, Judge Keith's good friend, Arthur L. Johnson, formerly a senior vice president of this university, wrote about Damon in Arthur's personal memoir, Race and Remembrance. I'd like to read one paragraph from that book, which sums up my point. Quote, Damon's chambers in Detroit are a walking museum. The walls are lined with photographs documenting the people he has met in his long, preeminent career as a lawyer, street fighter, and federal judge. All of these images will one day become a part of his archival collection housed at Wayne State University. However, there is a set of images that I strongly suspect future researchers will never see. They remain vivid in my memory because of what they show about my closest friend, his zest for life, his sense of adventure, his charisma, and his loyalty, and ultimately his impeccable integrity, all attest brightly to the character of this very special individual. It's that character that is the essence of this fine teacher who has never failed to speak out for justice, equality, or simply doing the right thing. He has taught us all lessons that are of more lasting importance than those learned within classroom walls. Judge Keith, on behalf of the Board of Governors of Wayne State University, its administration, faculty, staff, students, and more than 200,000 alumni, we thank you on behalf of all of those whom you've taught. We honor you for all that you've accomplished, and we love you for all that you are.
Thank you, Governor Dreiker. It is my honor to introduce one of many gifted people who began her legal career as a clerk for Judge Damon J. Keith. Jennifer Granholm has devoted her professional life to public service. She served as Assistant United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan and Wayne County Corporation Counsel before being elected as Michigan's Attorney General. In 2002, she was elected Michigan's governor. She was reelected in 2006. For both positions, the oath of office was administered by Judge Damon J. Keith. As governor, she has pursued a comprehensive agenda to diversify Michigan's economy, emphasizing funding for education and development of alternative energy. She has been a loyal supporter of the Keith Center for Civil Rights. A little over a year ago, she came to our campus to spur on our efforts on behalf of the center, and the result is what you see here today. Ladies and gentlemen, the 47th Governor of the state of Michigan, the Honorable Jennifer M. Granholm.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Thank you. So it's true that the judge swore me in as governor, and it's true that he, both times, on January 1st on the steps of the Capitol where it's freezing cold. It's true that he swore me in as Attorney General. It's true that he swore me in as a lawyer. But all of that notwithstanding, my most important credential today is that I was a clerk of Judge Keith. And so I'm here to speak on behalf of myself, but also all those other clerks who are here. I know that Judge Keith will probably ask them to stand and be recognized, so I won't do that. But know that this formative experience, as Governor Dreiker was saying, this experience of working underneath the judge with him has been hugely important for all of us. You know, some people are like the divining rods in your life that set you on the right path. And I know I speak for all of us when I say that Judge Keith has been that for us. So we're here at a groundbreaking. And at a groundbreaking, of course, you literally put the shovel in the dirt to break ground. And of course, the judge has been breaking ground for his entire life, and he taught us all about breaking ground. He taught us not just to be good lawyers, but to be good people and to be change agents for the world. Now, when I was first seeking these positions about being a judicial clerk, Judge Keith was my #1 choice. And I came in and was very nervous, but I was all about changing the world. You know how you are when you're just graduating and coming out of law school, and you want to change the world so desperately. And I happen to have had the privilege of being the editor-in-chief of one of Harvard's law reviews. It's the Civil Rights, Civil Liberties Law Review. So I was all about civil rights, and Judge Keith was the man in that area. And I know Mimi Wright, who's one of his clerks, also worked with me on that journal. Well, so I came in and sat down with the judge, and I was just so excited, and I was a little bit worried because at Harvard, don't tell this to anybody, okay, Attorney General, but at Harvard I had been disciplined because I was with a group of students who were involved in protesting Harvard's investments in companies that did business in South Africa. And so, so I was a little worried that the judge was going to, of course he's a civil rights judge, but also he's a judge. So I wasn't sure how that was going to come across. And in fact, Derek Bach, get the word, this is not Johannesburg. That was our motto. We took over the president's office and all of that. But here's the great thing about Judge Keith. He is someone who taught us that you can effectuate change on the outside and on the inside. And you can do it with respect, and you can have enormous impact no matter what the tools are that are at your disposal. So not too far from here, I think there are some folks who are protesting, not this event, of course, but other things. And every time I see protesters, and I've been the subject of many protests myself, every time I see protesters, though, I almost want to join them, even if they're protesting me. I feel like this is America. This is democracy, only in this country. And Judge Keith gave us that great sense of being able to transform the world from within and from without. What a tremendous lesson for us who have been nurtured by this great, great man. I know that Judge Keith, of course, has been known for all of these wonderful decisions that he has issued throughout the years. But one of the best lines in his decisions comes from a case where he had written about segregation. And this is the line. It says, "Pronouncement of good intentions with nothing more amounts to monumental hypocrisy." Talk is cheap, is essentially what the judge said. So I just want the judge to know that on behalf of all of us who are his clerks and his extended family members, and I know his obviously dear and wonderful family is here today, but we all claim him as ours. And on behalf of them, this groundbreaking is to ensure that we don't stop breaking ground. This is a groundbreaking that, of course, sets the path for a structure that's in stone, but Judge Keith's legacy is too big to be in one building. And the true legacy, right? The true legacy of Judge Keith is all about action. So let us use this as the foundation for action. God bless you all.
Thank you, Governor Granholm, for those heartfelt remarks. And I'll have you know the Tea Party recruiters are standing just beyond the tent.
I don't want to join them. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. Here in Detroit, we are fortunate to have a mayor whose sole agenda is the rebuilding of a city that he has loved and been a part of for over 40 years. A successful professional athlete and businessman, Dave Bing was elected mayor in a special election last May and was elected to a full term in November. Having fun yet? By that time, he had already established himself as a no-nonsense mayor who could work together with a variety of interests in the city and its suburbs. Need I tell you who was the judge who administered the oath of office? It is my pleasure to introduce the mayor of the city of Detroit, the Honorable Dave Bing.
Thank you. Thank you. My job today is to present Judge Damon Keith with a proclamation from the city of Detroit. But before I read a little bit of this, let me just tell you a quick story. Several years ago, and let me first say this, I did not clerk with Judge Keith. And because of that, I look back in retrospect and think I was a slow learner, because several years ago, the judge talked to me and said, have you ever thought about politics? Have you ever thought about potentially being the mayor of the city of Detroit? And that had never crossed my mind. And as I look at where I am today, this man that we're honoring had foresight, had vision, and because of him, there are so many of us that are better off today. When I think about a lot of men and in the city of Detroit and across this nation who if they had the opportunity to know Judge Keith and can, and just a little bit, emulate the life that he's led, we wouldn't have people saying that I don't want to be a role model or I don't want to be a hero, because there's so many of us that is what he represents. He is our role model. He is our hero. And I don't know that there could be a better person for us to emulate. This proclamation reads, the Honorable Judge Damon J. Keith, the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights Building dedication. Instead of going through all of the whereases, I'll go down to the bottom and say that therefore I, Dave Bing, Mayor, issue this proclamation on behalf of the city of Detroit, honoring Judge Damon J. Keith today, May 17, 2010, as Wayne State University breaks ground on the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights Center. Thank you so much for all that you are and all that you represent.
Several governments and officials have joined Mayor Bing in issuing proclamations and resolutions marking this occasion. A proclamation from Congresswoman Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick celebrating and recognizing that the groundbreaking is taking place today. A special tribute from the state of Michigan, Senator Hanson Clark and Representative Coleman Young II, celebrating and recognizing that the groundbreaking is taking place today. A testimonial resolution from the Detroit City Council recognizing the ceremonial groundbreaking. From downriver, a proclamation, Frank E. Vaslow, mayor of the city of Lincoln Park, declaring the entire week of May 16th to 22nd as Judge Damon J. Keith Week in the city of Lincoln Park. And not to be outdone, proclamation, Joseph G. Cuspa, mayor of the city of Southgate, declaring this week as Judge Damon J. Keith Week in the city of Southgate. I would be remiss if I did not recognize our former mayor and former president of the American Bar Association, the Honorable Dennis Archer, who is with us today. The Keith Center began with an idea by Alfred Taubman. He thought it would be appropriate to erect in the city of Detroit an appropriate monument to the life and work of Judge Damon J. Keith, and said so during a lunchtime conversation with the judge. Moreover, he backed that idea with money. Mr. Taubman's $3 million gift for construction of the Keith Center and support of its program remains to date the largest philanthropic contribution to Wayne State University Law School. In his autobiography, Threshold Resistance, Al Taubman describes how he pioneered the modern shopping mall concept by creating inviting retail environments. We have tried to follow his lead in the design of the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights and hope you find it every bit as inviting. Mr. Taubman has been a success at diverse endeavors, from retail to construction to root beer to professional football. But he is best known as a most generous philanthropist. His many contributions to medical and educational institutions are the stuff of legend, but the dollars are real. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. A. Alfred Taubman.
Thank you. Attorney General, Governor Granholm, Mayor Bing, Mr. Drinker, President Norrie, Dean Ackerman, Mrs. Berry, Edsel Ford, and Judge Keith, and friends of Wayne State University. Throughout history, great cities are recognized for their accomplishments and reputations of their most distinguished citizens. Here in Detroit, our favorite son is Judge Damon J. Keith. As a city and a nation, we are blessed to have Damon Keith to help bring out the best in all of us. Few people in our history have contributed more to upholding the belief that all men are created equal and are endowed with inalienable rights. When we forget those words, Judge Keith reminds us to their meaning and warns us that democracies die behind closed doors. His life and career demonstrate what's best about America. I've had the privilege of knowing Damon and being able to call him my friend for more than 30 years. The time I've spent with Damon and his wonderful late wife, Rachel, is time that I cherish for its wisdom, warmth, and laughter. Being a real estate in all my life, I've been president more than my share of groundbreakings and building dedications. And I'd like to clear up one false rumor. I was not present for the laying of the cornerstone of any one of the pyramids. Come on, I was just a kid at the time. But I cannot remember, I'm almost as old as he is, but I cannot remember a ceremony so brimming with hope and pride and expectation. This center and the unique collection of documents it will house assure that generations will come will benefit from the wisdom, warmth, and laughter we're lucky enough to experience face to face. That's a wonderful gift to this university, this city, and our nation. Friends, as Winston Churchill said, we shape our buildings, and thereafter they shape us. Damon Keith, our favorite son, has helped shape us into a better people. The Damon Keith Center for Civil Rights now extends that legacy to shape tomorrow's lawyers and distinguished citizens. Congratulations, Damon. All Detroiters celebrate your accomplishments, and thanks for your extraordinary friendship, fairness, and leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are here today due in no small part to the contributions of Edsel B. Ford II. Last fall, Mr. Ford decided to make a $1 million contribution to the Damon J. Keith Center, and in so doing, to honor both his friendship with Judge Keith and that of his father, Henry Ford II. That contribution put us close enough to our goal for even John Davis, our ever-cautious and scrupulous Vice President for Finance and Facilities Management, to recommend that the Board of Governors approve construction of the Keith Center, and thank you, members of the board, for doing so. Mr. Ford is a most successful businessman and philanthropist. He has run Ford Australia, served as president and chief operating officer of Ford Motor Credit, and as vice president of the Ford Motor Company, and serves on the board of directors of that very successful American automobile manufacturer. It is my pleasure to present Mr. Edsel B. Ford II.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be with all of you here today for the groundbreaking ceremonies for the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights. About 3 or 4 months ago, my friend Carol Goss, who is the president of the Skillman Foundation, approached me about the opportunity of becoming involved with the Keith Center. Now, any of you know Carol. When Carol asks you for a favor, you don't say no, so I said yes. I said yes for lots of reasons. One, because I have an ultimate respect for Carol Goss, but more because I love Damon Keith. Judge Keith's friendship with both my father, myself, and my wife Cynthia are very important to us, and we hold Judge Keith in the highest possible esteem. And my wife Cynthia and I are very honored to be here today with you and with Judge Keith. In discussions with Dean Ackerman, when we discussed the Keith Center, I thought there would be something very important, or there was something very important that might be missing from the Keith Center. And I was thinking primarily of Judge Keith's grandchildren and my children and their children, and all the children of the people that are here today. So I went to see my friend Nancy Mitter, who is a portrait artist of some renown. And I asked Nancy if she and I, this is a very dangerous thing to do, but if she and I would create, if she would paint and I wouldn't help her paint it, but I gave her some direction. I thought it would be a really neat idea if we could present Judge Keith with a portrait here today that would permanently hang in the center, so that everyone, when they walk in, they'll say to themselves, that's Judge Keith. So if Dean Ackerman, Nancy, why don't you stand up? Nancy Mitter, ladies and gentlemen. And so, Damon, maybe if it's okay, could you stand up too? Because I hope you like this. But this is from my father, Henry Ford II, and from my wife, Cynthia, and I, to Damon J. Keith, a portrait.
I'll have you know that Judge Keith wanted very much to care for the comfort and enjoyment of all of our guests here today, and so he has been meticulously involved in all of the planning for today, but I think we got you on this one. This was a surprise. This portrait will be seen in the gallery as you enter the Keith Center. It will command a focal point, and I think it will overcome what Mr. Taubman describes as threshold resistance. Many other donors have contributed generously to the Damon J. Keith Center. I should underscore the fact that all of the funds for the Keith Center, for both the building and the program, are private funds. No state tax dollars, no student tuition dollars. This has all been a product of private philanthropy, for which we are very grateful. Among the many donors, the Kellogg Foundation, we appreciate the efforts of Ms. Louise Benitez Delgado, the Max and Marjorie Fisher Foundation, the Ford Motor Fund, the Richard and Jane Manoogian, Eugene Dreiker, the J.P. Morgan Chase, and especially the efforts of Christine Kageth, the Community Foundation of Southeastern Michigan, Charles Boyce, one of our first donors, Roy Roberts, and many others. It is now my pleasure to introduce the president of Wayne State University. President J. Noreen joined us almost 2 years ago after distinguished service at several educational institutions, including Texas A&M, the University of Wisconsin, and the University of Nebraska, where he founded the School of Public Health. A member of the medical profession, Dr. Noreen has nevertheless recognized the critical role of the law school in the university, has been most supportive of our efforts on behalf of the Keith Center, and recognizes its importance to the city of Detroit. Ladies and gentlemen, the 10th president of Wayne State University, Dr. J. Noreen.
Thank you. Thank all of you for coming. Today, we honor the work and the life of the Honorable Damon J. Keith, but we at Wayne State are honored by the opportunity to make Damon Keith a part of this university now and for the future time immemorial. Students not yet born will learn from the legacy of Damon Keith, and we thank you for that. I have now the distinct privilege to introduce Attorney General Eric Holder, who will deliver the keynote address this afternoon. Mr. Holder is a native of another great American city, New York, and a product of its city high schools, as was Judge Keith. And I think most of you know that Judge Keith was also a product of Wayne State. We claim him as an alum whenever we have a chance to do so. Eric Holder graduated from Columbia University in 1973 with a degree in American history and received his JD from Columbia Law School in 1976. While in law school, he clerked at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the Department of Justice's Criminal Division. After graduation, he moved to Washington, D.C. and joined the Department of Justice as part of the Attorney General's Honors Program. In 1988, Mr. Holder was picked by President Reagan to become Associate Judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. During the Clinton administration, he was named Deputy Attorney General of the United States. As Deputy Attorney General, he developed and issued the Holder Memorandum, which spelled out guidelines for the criminal prosecution of corporations. He also established rules for the regulation of health care and assembled a task force that determined ways in which to pursue criminal investigations of high-ranking federal employees. He was chosen by President Obama as the 82nd Attorney General of the United States. Mr. Holder has brought a well-known and well-founded candor and courage to the conduct of his office. I want to give you a quote that illustrates that. He said, and I quote, "Though this nation has proudly thought of itself as an ethnic melting pot in things racial, we have always been and continue to be in too many ways, essentially, a nation of cowards." Those are strong words, they're truthful, and importantly, they're said with conviction and with courage. And I can give you another example, which I just witnessed, of his courage. As he was shaking Dave Bing's hand, he challenged him to a one-on-one basketball game. So it is quite appropriate that he is the keynote speaker to discuss a man who is the embodiment of courage in the fight for civil rights. Damon Keith is courage. I give you the Attorney General. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to say thank you, President Arena. I'm not so sure about that now. But just, let's do this basketball thing. I have seated over here to my left, William F. Jones. We call him Foley at Columbia. He was the captain of our basketball team. Stand up, Foley. Come on, man. All right. So, 2-on-2. He'll get the rebounds, I'll do all the shooting. And Mr. Ford, you've done wonders with the revitalization of your product line, and I really like that Mustang. So can we talk before I leave? We can. And Jennifer Granholm, you're concerned about your background. Foley and I, when we were at Columbia in the early 70s, our motto was on strike, shut it down. And we took over, I talked at the Columbia Law School graduation, I guess, a couple of days ago. We took over the dean's office at Columbia, demanding that we have a place where black students could meet, a black lounge. It was a huge thing at the time. It seemed big. We held the dean captive, and to show you what kind of place Columbia was and the kind of person I am, I asked him then to write my law school recommendation. And he did, But it's a great honor to be here among so many distinguished leaders. Many of you are old friends. Others I recognize from those unforgettable photographs that line every inch of Judge Keith's chamber walls. Now, like many of you, I'll always consider the day I managed to join that wall to be among my proudest. And I'm assuming that my picture's up there. Is that... He didn't say yes. He didn't say yes. I took a picture with him, so I just, man. I'm really glad, though, that Governor Granholm could be here this afternoon. I know how important a mentor Judge Keith has been to her and to all of his law clerks over the years. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to join with you all in celebrating the groundbreaking of a center that no doubt will become the same beacon of civil rights for Detroit and America that its namesake has been for more than half a century. Now, that said, I didn't exactly have a choice about being here today. As all of you know very well, Judge Keith has the rare ability to convince anyone of just about anything. When he asks, you do it. And you just know that it is, in fact, important. Well, not long ago, he persuaded me, effortlessly, of course, into promising him that I would return to Detroit every 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I'm the Attorney General of the whole United States. And you look at my schedule, I've been here every 4 to 6 weeks. So here I am again, Judge, at your service. But of course, the truth is there's nowhere I'd rather be this afternoon. Judge Keith is not only a trailblazer and an icon, he's one of the best lawyers alive, but he's also a towering role model for countless young and not so young attorneys. He is one of my role models. Without him, there would be no me. So many of his former law clerks have gone on to lead meaningful lives of service to our country, including the Justice Department's own Spencer Overton and Washington, D.C.'s U.S. Attorney Ron Machin. Both of them had unforgettable clerkship experiences, which they can talk about for hours. I found that out on the flight over here today with both of them. Another reason why I knew I was coming here today. Their stories have confirmed what I have always felt, from his unflinching fidelity to the Constitution to his deep appreciation for the power of law to improve society. Judge Keith is, above all, a great American. But he's no ordinary American. Born on the 4th of July, think about that, born on the 4th of July, which says it all, and the grandson of 2 slaves, Judge Keith was the first member of his family to attend college. He said that attending West Virginia State College and for the first time seeing African American professors, as he put it, took the cataracts off his eyes. Still, life was no walk in the park. After graduating from Howard University Law School, he cleaned the offices of the Detroit News while studying for the Michigan bar exam. But soon, Judge Keith, and by extension, our nation, would have its big break. He was hired by one of Detroit's top black law firms. Quickly, he stood out, rising in 1967 to become a United States District Court judge, and not long after, rising yet again to the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. Over the years, he has received the most prestigious awards bestowed on judges and too many honorary degrees to count. But it is not Judge Keith's many celebrated achievements that bring us together this afternoon. It's his contributions, his character, his generosity, and more than anything, I believe, his vision. As a judge, he has set an example to which every jurist and every guardian of a Constitution should aspire. For more than 4 decades, Judge Keith has embodied the best qualities of his profession. And given how seriously he has taken the sacred responsibility of his role, that should come as no surprise. In case after case, from the Keith case to Pontiac and far beyond, he has safeguarded our highest principles. And we've all seen how he does it. Judge Keith not only reveres the letter of the law, but he also understands and respects the impact that his rulings have on the people and communities that they affect. He is fiercely and famously independent, and under no circumstances afraid to stand up to the cause of democracy, or for that matter, to an attorney general. And while he's open to all viewpoints, he never wavers in his commitment to the 4 words displayed on our country's highest court: equal justice under law. It is no exaggeration to argue that Judge Keith's courage and conviction has set the bar for judges across the nation, or to argue that his personal qualities have also. Generations of young attorneys have seen their lives change in his chambers. His kindness is infectious, but so too is his expectation for excellence. Let's just say you don't want to disappoint Damon Keith. But his clerks, who year after year reflect the full diversity of our country, never do disappoint. So many have gone on to do great things in life, and so many attribute their success, even years later, to Judge Keith's mentorship and example. And that, I believe, tells you everything. It tells you example for why the center we break ground on this afternoon is such a fitting and proper tribute. After all, when it opens next year, the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights will, above all, carry on Judge Keith's tradition of inspiring and empowering young Americans. The center will also advance learning of our nation's most trying struggles and instill new appreciation for its promise for the future. But as Judge Keith would put it, the job is not done there. The center will also promote community engagement, support research on African American jurists, and of course, honor the life and career of Judge Keith. It will move this community and our country forward. And just as Judge Keith has been one of America's most consistent social and legal consciences for the better part of a century, I have no doubt that this center will come to serve that function as well, and for many years to come. Now, I can think of no city that deserves this tribute better than Detroit. Since the dawn of the 20th century, long before the rest of the country caught the winds of change, this community has been at the center of the civil rights movement. Work here led to the formation of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and the city's many contributions to African American culture uplifted our nation during some of its most trying times. And of course, Judge Keith himself is a lifelong Detroiter who has left an enduring mark on this city. For years, he has bridged the divide between neighborhoods, ensured that the city's other tributes to African American history remained open and appreciated, and fought from the bench to ensure that fairness and equality for all of Detroit's citizens was there. Now, as many of you know, Judge Keith once famously wrote, and was quoted before, democracies die behind closed doors. But what he did not write, but what he is unarguably true, is that democracy lives. Democracy is strengthened behind the doors of Judge Keith's chambers. And now democracy will also live. Democracy will also be strengthened behind the doors of the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights. Now, this center is more than a tribute to one man. It is a guide to the future that America must aspire to. It will help those in the future to understand the past and point the way to the progress that our nation must achieve. So I thank you all for having me out here today, and congratulations, Judge, on this great and well-deserved honor. Our country is truly in your debt. Thank you.
Thank you, General Holder. We know that you have more than a few issues to deal with. You have kept your head as others have lost theirs. And we are very grateful and very honored that you could come to join us today. Judge Keith is a member of what Tom Brokaw has called the greatest generation. And in that greatest of American generations, he is himself distinguished as one of those rare people who not only saw the vision of justice and equality under law, but carried that vision to reality through their words and deeds, sometimes at great personal sacrifice. But it is also important to note that Judge Damon J. Keith is not only a great man, he is a good man. His work as a jurist is known for landmark cases such as U.S. v. Sinclair and Detroit Free Press v. Ashcroft, but his instinct for good is also seen in the form of many gestures, large and small, like coming to the aid of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, a true gem in our city, which quite appropriately is now collaborating with the Keith Center, or together with his friends Al Taubman and Max Fisher, finding secure housing for Rosa Parks. Judge Keith's influence can be measured in part by the presence of so many distinguished guests here today. But just as important has been Judge Keith's impact on people from all walks of life. I am fairly new to this city, but in the 2 years I've been here, it has been my good fortune to attend a number of events with Judge Keith. Pretty nice gig for a new guy on the block, isn't it? And one of the great joys is seeing a parking attendant's face light up in recognition as he says, "What an honor to meet you, Judge Keith. I'll have something to tell my mother about tonight." Or for a construction worker to step forward, shake the judge's hand and say, "Thank you for making my life better." Or for a new law student to beam with pride, knowing that by common association with our law school, she has touched greatness. Judge Keith, you have touched each and every one of us, and all of our lives are better for your having done so. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Damon J. Keith.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dean. I'm reminded of a story I told my wife Rachel many years ago. I came home and said, "Darling, I have just been named Man of the Year." And she said, "Sweetheart, that shows you what type of year it's been." If she were here, I think she would say this has been a good year. Attorney General, you and I spoke about the significance of this May 17th date to Brown versus Board of Education when you were in my chambers a few months ago. I selected May the 17th as the day for this groundbreaking because it was 56 years ago, on May the 17th, 1954, that Chief Justice Warren of the United States Supreme Court declared in Brown versus Board of Education that the doctrine of separate but equal has no place in American society because it deprived blacks of equal protection of the laws guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. Chief Justice Warren further remarked that education is that principal instrument in awakening the child to cultural values in preparing him for later professional training and helping him to adjust normally to the environment. When I mentioned this date to you, General, you immediately said, "Judge, I will be there." and I want to thank you for being here today. I hope that the Keith Center will live up to these words engraved in the Supreme Court of the United States: equal justice under law. The historic ruling in Brown changed the legal landscape and provided fuel for the civil rights movement and demonstrated the power of law in bringing social change for a more just society. My friend and mentor, Justice Thurgood Marshall, and I might add, parenthetically, Al doesn't know I'm going to say this, when Thurgood Marshall died years ago, the dean of the law school at Howard came to me and said, "Damon, your friend up in Detroit, Al Tubman, has sent a substantial check to Howard University Law School in honor of Thurgood Marshall." Thank you, Al. I hold these words, equal justice under law, closely and have kept them in mind during my over 40 years in the federal judiciary. I hope that equal justice under law will guide the work of the Keith Center. Thank you, President Norn and the Board of Governors of Wayne State University and Dean Ackerman. I am humbled that you have agreed to allow this building to be built in my honor. I would like to express my thanks to Eugene Dreiker and my fourth daughter, Governor Jennifer M. Granholm, for the warm remarks and her outstanding job as governor. And I am concerned deeply about the struggle that we in this city, in this state, have gone through. But when I think of Dave Bing, whom I swore in as mayor of the city of Detroit, and who is restoring integrity and strength and strong leadership to community, I feel comforted, and I want to congratulate you, Dave. Thank you. Al Tubman and I are good friends, but we were having lunch a few years ago, and I repeated this about a month ago when President Norrin and Dean Ackerman and the architects and I had lunch out at Al's office. He says, "Damon, you have been a fighter for civil rights all of your life and for the struggle." And he says, "I think we should have a building named in your honor at Wayne." Now, at this point, I thought, Al said, "I will give the initial gift of $3 million, but at lunch the other day, President Norrin, I thought he said, 'Damon, I thought I said I'd give $4 million. Now, I don't know. When you start talking about millions of dollars, I don't know what Al's talking about. But where's the president? Did he not say that, President? He said, "Damon, I thought I told you I'd give $4 million. Now, if Mr. Myro, if Jeff Myro is here, that's Al's personal lawyer, and I know him well. Jeff, let's look at $4 million, will you?" Now, Etzel and Cynthia, and Etzel and I talk about this quite frequently. My father came to Detroit, Michigan for $5 a day, working at his great-grandfather's place. Left his family in Atlanta, Georgia, and came here to work for his great-grandfather. And then Etzel's father and I, Henry Ford II, became very close friends. And now Henry Ford's son and I are very close friends. And Etzel and Cynthia have presented this great portrait, which I didn't know anything about. And I want to thank you, Etzel. I was telling the general I thought that the portrait would be ready maybe 11 months from now when the building was completed. And I was flabbergasted to know you had done this type of accelerated work, Etzel, and I want to thank you for that. And the Ford Fund, and for the Henry Ford II Fund, you were able to have your father involved in that generous gift that you gave, Etzel. And I appreciate it. I know your father's looking down and saying, a job well done. Now, Etzel selected Nancy Mitter to make this portrait. And Etzel, I want to thank you. Where are you? Would you please stand up and let's give you a big hand. I would like to thank Mary Holland, who has worked, is Mary here? She has worked herself to death in the development department. And I just want to thank you, Mary. And I believe we have about 40 law clerks who have come here from all over the country to share this day with me. Because they have been a part of my life. It's my family, my law clerks. There's not a day that passes that I don't get a call from one or two law clerks saying, Judge, how are you? How are you feeling? Are the present law clerks treating you all right? And it's just a wonderful feeling. I am delighted to have here also my family. Cecile, her husband Darrell, my granddaughters Nia and Kamara, and my daughters Debbie and Gilda, wherever you are, will you please stand, and you know Daddy loves you. In closing, I would like to read something that's very dear to me. It's entitled, In Living Faith. I've dreamed many dreams that never came true. I've seen them vanish at dawn. But I've realized enough of my dreams, thank God, to make me want to dream on. I prayed many prayers when no answer came, though I waited patiently and long. But answers have come to enough of my prayers to make me keep trusting and living on. I've sown many seeds that fell by the way for the birds to feed upon, but I've held enough golden sheaves in my hand to keep my sowing on. I've dreamed the cup of disappointment and pain, and gone many days without song, but I've sipped enough nectar from the roses of life to make me want to live on. I haven't accomplished every goal in life as the years have come and gone, but I've experienced enough success in my work to make me want to work and live on. Thank you very much.
It is now my task to lead you from the sublime to the mundane. Please. Refreshments will be served in the McGregor lobby following the groundbreaking. The Saluting a Giant exhibit, a tribute to Judge Keith, will be on display in rooms B and C of McGregor. I would like to invite the dignitaries immediately after our closing anthem. I'd like to invite the dignitaries seated on the stage, along with the Wayne State Board of Governors members, Professor John Moak, who is chair of our building committee, Professor Peter Hammer, who is the first director of the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights, all to join me in the dirt box for the groundbreaking. We'll have a little fun in the dirt. But first, in the spirit of unity, in the spirit of hope and the dream that is the United States of America, please join Professor Nora Duncan in the singing of Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died. We have come over the way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast.
We are adjourned, and we'll see you 1 year from now for the dedication of the Damon J. Keith Center for Civil Rights.